everyone! Welcome and well met. Thank you for joining me here today. And this is going to be the first of probably many different prediction theories that we're going to be talking about for Dawntrail. So, as I'm sure that everyone out there watching this is aware of, we finished up with the Fan Festival just last week, and it was really big news, especially with the announcement of the new expansion of 7.0, Dawntrail. Now, we really don't know too much information about Dawntrail just yet. I am positive we're going to be getting more as the weeks go on, especially once we head closer to the next Fan Festival, which is going to be taking place in London. But as of right now, probably the biggest thing that they're going to be talking about is the fact that we're getting 2 new jobs. So this is something that is tradition with the expansions, that we do get new jobs for us to play around with. And they did confirm for us that the 2 jobs are going to be DPS. One is going to be melee and the other is going to be a magical range DPS. As to what the new jobs are, I'm afraid that we really don't know anything, so anything's up in the air at the moment. I do think that we will find out the identity of at least one of the jobs by the London Fan Festival, which takes place, I think, in October. And then we're probably going to get the second job revealed during the 3rd and final Fan Festival before Dawntrail comes out. So today I'm going to be talking about the top theories to what these jobs could possibly be. And it's all based on the t-shirts that Yoshi-p was wearing during the keynote for the Fan Festival. So if you are a long-standing fan of Final Fantasy XIV, then you know that Yoshi-p has this tradition of coming out onto stage in a very particular t-shirt, which is usually a hint to what one of the new jobs could possibly be for the upcoming expansion. I still remember when he came out onto the stage wearing a Batman t-shirt just before Heavensward came out, and of course, one of the new jobs was Dark Knight. So this is just something that he, I think, just likes to torment us with. Now, there's always a possibility that it could be a red herring, and he's just messing with us. I personally don't think so. But yes, moving on to this particular t-shirt he wore was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem t-shirts. And already the theories are flying, especially since he did make kind of a show of revealing the t-shirts. And right now, there's just so many theories, like so many dots that everyone's trying to connect that it's almost too much. Like, there's just so many different ways that this shirt could represent the brand new job. But we're going to cover the most likely and realistic predictions that people have come up with. So I have 3 predictions for each one of the 2 jobs, so let's go ahead and jump right straight into it. So the first one is going to be the most likely job possibilities for the melee class, and that's going to be the Corsair. Now, the Corsair is a very special job that I think made its debut in Final Fantasy XI, and its job is kind of based a little bit on the Gambler, but it's really more like a pirate-themed particular job. They wear light clothing, and they use knives, swords, and special guns to deal out damage. Now, the reason that people are so convinced that this could be the next job is really because of the teaser trailer that we got during the keynote. We see the Warrior of Light standing out on the deck of the ship, and when he pulls back his hood, you get like this feeling of like a swashbuckler in the movie almost. In fact, when I saw him, I immediately thought of like Jack Sparrow or Will Turner from Pirates of the Caribbean. I'm not gonna lie, that's immediately what I thought of when I saw him like that. Now, it's important to remember that this was just the teaser trailer, so we don't have the full trailer yet, which I do think is going to be revealing one of the new jobs. And it does seem that the Warrior of Light will be kind of cosplaying that particular job throughout the expansion. And if you really look around here, it does seem like there are a lot of clues that are also supporting the Corsair. Yoshi-p did say that during the presentation, the theme for Dawntrail is all going to be about exploration and discovery. And what better way to introduce those themes than with a pirate? It almost fits too well with this particular vision. Also, if you really look at it, I might just be pulling things out of nowhere here, but we have a small giveaway with Thancred holding a treasure map with a big red X on it, which is a typical pirate fantasy. And the reason that it's connected with perhaps the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is maybe the job could be using a very particular weapon that one of the turtles are holding. If that's the case, I think the most likely weapons that we'll be using with the Corsair will be kind of the dual swords, like how Leonardo uses them. Now, I know that most people, when they think of the Corsair, they think of someone using guns, which normally would go into the whole idea of a ranged DPS instead of a melee. But remember, pirates didn't always use pistols. They mostly relied upon various types of knives and swords while they fight. So I could definitely see this as kind of a rotation, like you slash with a sword and then maybe you pull out a gun to do range damage. So if you think of it like that, especially since the ninja does also use ranged attacks as well, the two of them could definitely share scouting gear. Also, I do think back in the 2000s, I think they did have a popular meme going on between ninjas versus pirates. So what better way than to bring in pirates and ninjas once again? I do think that there is kind of a poetic irony, like if you really think about that. Also, and I may be just kind of going out there on a limb here, but I can't help it when I see the word mutant, like how it was written on Yoshi-p's t-shirts, I cannot help but think of the X-Men. I know, I was one of those kids that loved watching the X-Men every Saturday morning, but when I think of the X-Men, one of them that comes to mind immediately is Cyclops. So if you're not a fan of the X-Men, then you probably have no idea what I'm talking about, but Cyclops' father, his name is Corsair. So that could be another connection, or I might just be completely branching out, but hey, it does make sense. But out of all the possible jobs that we could be getting for the new melee job, I do think that the Corsair is perhaps the most likely scenario. Otherwise, the other two possible jobs that we could be getting for the melee would be the Beastmaster or the Rune Knight, and I'll get to those in just a second. But the Beastmaster, we do know for a fact the Beastmaster job is something that is confirmed in the world of Final Fantasy XIV, mostly because of the Bogia Southern Front. We have a character there who does go by the title of Beastmaster. I don't want to get into too many details just in case you haven't played through that yet. But we do know that it is a distinct possibility for someone to tame large and most likely very dangerous creatures to fight for you. I doubt that we would be actually gaining control of such real monsters to do battle for us. I mean, I personally feel it would be more likely that we get the Beastmaster as a kind of limited job like how we have with Blue Mage. We can go out and hunt down particularly powerful monsters, tame them, and then just kind of fight them in like a, I don't know, like a monster arena kind of PvP, if you ask me. But Beastmaster does seem to be talked about a lot recently, and it does seem to have some kind of connection with, you know, like a beast form. And I think the reason that people are kind of connecting that is because the turtles and their kind of beast form. I don't know, I personally feel like it's kind of stretching the limit on that one, but also we do have the Rune Knight, or also known as the Mystic Knight, the Rune Fencer. It does go by a lot of names. Now, the Rune Knight is a job that means that you could use both swords and magic when you do battle. Now, that's nothing new. We do have like the Paladin and the Red Mage who can use both magic and swords when they fight. But what makes the Mystic Knight so unique is that their magical attacks and defenses have strong elemental aspects determined by which ruins that they're harboring at the time. They built up harbored ruins, provided elemental attack and defense, and can be expanded for various effects. And I personally feel like this is also a distinct possibility because, once again, of the trailer. So if we go back to the trailer, we see the Warrior of Light walking in, I guess, the throne room here. He's facing off against the Mahmud Jah. He's still wearing his cloak, so we can't really see what he's wearing, but we do see his sword that he's using. Now, some people think that this is just him going from a paladin, but I personally don't think so, because this does not look like the typical paladin sword that he used throughout Endwalker. It's definitely a lot smaller, a lot lighter, and we don't have a shield on our back, so this leads me to think that this is definitely a hint at the new job. So whatever kind of new job that the melee is going to be, it does seem to be using much smaller, lighter swords. And I can definitely see him using maybe dual swords here, like either for the Corsair or for the Mystic Knight. And later on, when we see him getting blasted by the fire, you see him smiling. Because it's like he's being covered in an element, and this might be a new buff for him. And like he tears off the cloak and he's ready to fight and just send fire right back at the enemy. I personally think that would be really cool. This could be coupled with a hint that there are going to be some battle system changes coming, and this would go great if elemental damage is introduced. Personally, I do feel like the Mystic Knight versus the Corsair with this particular weapon makes a little bit more sense. It does look a lot more like something that a Rune Knight or a Mystic Knight would use, and it would probably fit in really nicely with the new world, which is what the sword kind of looks like from the few shots that we got. At least that's just in my humble opinion, and honestly, I would be happy with any one of these particular jobs. I do think that it is going to be sharing the gear with the scouting gear, like with the ninja, and I might just be kind of reaching things out with this particular idea with both the Beastmaster and the Mystic Knight. Corsair does seem to be the most likely candidate, but then again, everyone was convinced that we would be heading off to Mericidia, and then Square Enix just turns around and kind of pulls the wool over our eyes, so maybe that's what they're going for. They want us to think that the most obvious job is going to be the new job, and instead just shock us later on. So let me know what you think on that. As for the second job, all we know for sure is that it is going to be a magical range DPS job. So there are 3 distinct possibilities of what we could be having with that. The first one is known as the Pictomancer. So in case you don't know, this is a job that you can actually use paint and drawings to actually do battle. If you look back at Final Fantasy VI, we have Rem, who is a playable character. She's descended from the Magi, so she can naturally channel magic, which she does through her ability to sketch monsters and bring them to life. And it is a really interesting theory, because I never would have once thought that the Pictomancer would be a job that we could possibly be introduced to later down the line. I mean, if you look at certain battles like how we had way back in the Sigmascape with Omega, where we can actually bring paintings to life, it's certainly a possibility to think about. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the Pictomancer title, it could be something like an ink mage or something like that. I do think the dev team would have to be very creative in terms of being able to introduce the whole concept of bringing paintings to life, like as a regular job, but yeah, I do see this as a distinctive possibility. Also, I do think that the new magical DPS role is going to be played by Cryle. Cryle is supposed to be playing a much bigger role in the new expansion, and what better way to introduce one of the new jobs than by giving it to Cryle, who again is supposed to be playing a much more center stage role than she has in the past. And if you look back at Final Fantasy VI with Rem, she was known as being the only player who can actually wear a cat-eared hood. We are still missing Cryle from the trailer, so it could be that when the full trailer comes out, we will see her stepping out not only with her cat-eared hood, but also as a brand new Pictomancer, or whatever they choose to call it. Otherwise, the other 2 jobs that I think would possibly fit in with the whole concept of a magical range DPS that's going off to the new world would be either the Green Mage or the Geomancer. So Geomancer, we talked about Geomancer before, I think a lot of people have. It is confirmed that Geomancer is in the game. It's not a playable job yet, but it has been hinted a lot in the past, especially with the Astrologian questline and the Swallow's Compass questline. While Astrologians are said to draw power from the stars themselves, Geomancy focuses on the star below us, so the source itself, and the powers of wind, earth, and water. I've always loved the whole concept of the Geomancer myself, and I love the concept of a fully elemental mage. And if we are going to be heading off to the new world, it is stated that there are going to be a lot more return to nature, so that the people here are very in tune with nature. So I do think the Geomancer could be a really good role to have in that front. Otherwise, the only other job that I could really think that stands out in my mind is the Green Mage. The whole concept with the Green Mage is that they're definitely not as old as some of the other mages that we have, especially not like the Black Mage, the White Mage, the Red and Blue Mages. But Green Mage is very unique in the fact that this is a job that really focuses more on debuffing the enemy. I mean, if you think about it, it's simple. Green Mage, turtles equals green. I think that Yoshi-p is playing the long game and is expecting everyone to kind of overlook the obvious. And it would fit well with Cryle as well becoming a green mage, as she's traditionally been a healer. So switching from a healer to more of a DPS role could definitely be something that she might want to do, because she did state she wants to grow stronger. She wants to be able to help people and have people rely on her. So she could feel like instead of healing, she should focus more on her growing her strength and maybe learning some attacking spells. I do think that if the Scions do break up into different parties, which I have a feeling that's what's going to happen, then probably the best team to go with the Warrior of Light would be people like G'raha, Alize, and Cryle. They did state that the Scions are going to be divided over some kind of competition going on in the New World, which is going to be deciding a brand new ruler for Taral. I personally don't feel like the Scions are going to be going to civil war with each other and fighting, because after all they've been through, they're more likely to talk about their differences than to actually fight it out. But I feel like if the Warrior of Light was going to go off in a group, then not only would Alize and G'raha be good people to have with us, especially since we are going to be getting the trust system for Dawntrail, but this could be a good opportunity to have Cryle, who could be both a healer as well as a DPS role. Yoshi-p has also mentioned that they were thinking about removing the raise from the summoner. This would be a perfect time to actually split the 4 casters that we have into 2 supports as well as 2 damage dealers mostly. So with the Summoner and Black Mage taking more of a damage dealing route, we would have the Red Mage and the Green Mage being our support casters. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the whole concept of the new jobs coming for 7.0. Really the only clue that we have is the t-shirts. But what do you all think? Do you think that these could possibly be the new jobs? If not, just let me know what you think they are. And I hope that we'll be getting back to you soon. There are going to be a lot of theories and a lot more clues coming out as we head closer and closer to Dawntrail. So yeah, this is just going to be the first of hopefully many videos discussing the possibilities. So until next time everyone, please take care.